in this chapter, we will focus on the extent of legal and illegal immigration into the United States, and why economists view economic immigration as a personal human capital investment. We also will try to explain how immigration affects average wages, resource allocation, domestic output, and group income share in the United States. How illegal immigration affects employment is also discussed throughout the chapter, and the impact of illegal immigration on our state and our local government budget. All right, let's move on. So the contents of the chapter are the number of immigrants, the decision to migrate, economic effect of immigration, and the recent debate on illegal immigration in the United States. So again, let's make it clear that the focus of the chapter is on economic immigrant. And economic immigrant, we are referring to international migrant coming to United States motivated by economic gain. Between 2004 and 2013, legal migration averages about 1 million of individuals per year. And in 2013, 66% of legal immigrants were family sponsored. Illegal immigrants are those who enter the country illegally or legally but overstay their visa. Most of the immigrants are from Mexico because of their proximity, or Central or America. H-1B provision allow about 65,000 skilled workers in a specialty occupation to enter United States and work for a period of 6 years. So this graph shows you the number of legal immigrants into the United States between 1980 and 2017. And you can see on the graph that there's a big spike in early 1990s. And this large number is due to large number of illegal immigrants being granted amnesty to become legal or permanent resident of the United States. And this number also include a refugee, grantees of political asylum, and entry under special provision of immigration law. So you have the refugee, political asylum, and others. So let's see the distribution of immigrant population. So this graph illustrates legal migration based on a category of immigrant. Like I said before, you can see that the vast majority of migration is due to family sponsored immigrant, about 66%. The decision to migrate into United States mostly due to taking advantage of a superior economic opportunity. And there are many decisions why people will decide to immigrate into United States legally or illegally. And in this lecture, our interest continue to focus on economic immigration. One of the primary reasons that people immigrate into the United States is the opportunity to earn more money, and sometimes doing the same job that they were doing in their own country. Immigrants will improve their standard of living, doing the same job, earning more money, and improve their standard of living. While moving to another country can entail a large cost, individual always weigh the cost versus the gain before they undertake any migration movement. So as any project that you will undertake, you look at the cost and the benefit of doing it. And anytime the benefit exceed the cost, so the project, in our case here, the migration is economically sound. So human capital, I said before that the decision to migrate is investment in human capital. And human capital is defined as the knowledge, the know-how, and the skills that enable a person to be productive. So the younger the individual and the closer the country, the more likely the individual will immigrate. And many migrants follow the route taken previously by a family member, simply following the beaten path. Other factors also taken into consideration when decide to migrate. But a factor such as language skill and having children that will benefit from being in the United States. All those factors will be included in the cost-benefit analysis before you make that decision to migrate. This table show the US legal immigrant by the top 10 country of origin in 2017. So you can see that Mexico being the first one due to the proximity of Mexico to the United States. This global perspective show immigrant as a percentage of the labor force for selected advanced industrial countries. Immigrants make up relatively large percentages of the labor force in several advanced industrial countries, including Australia and United States, Switzerland, Australia, Ireland, United States. And but make up a much smaller percentage in other countries, such as Finland. Economic effect of immigration. Immigration may create a large economic benefit for some, but it can also create some losers. The facts show the benefit of immigration exceed the cost. However, not all immigrants in the United States succeed. Because the decision to immigrate into the United States is often made with uncertainty and based on what is true for the average person, this can often lead people to backflow. A backflow is defined as migration back to the home country. And this return might be the result of lower earning than expected, or missing family and friend. Sometimes a person's skill don't transfer as well to the new country, making it difficult to find a new job. And sometimes the migrants themselves are self-selected, and since they do choose to move, they possess that determination and the motivation necessary to succeed, which can offset the lack of skill or transferability. Economic migration model. So to understand economic outcome of migration, we will make certain assumption, the following assumption to review the economic migration model. Okay, so a simple economic model of immigration will help us to understand some of the cause, effect, relationship, and identify broader economic outcome of migration. Here we will assume that the demand for labor is greater in the United States than Mexico. So the two countries we're going to look at is the United States and Mexico in our example over here. And the first assumption is that the demand for labor is greater in the United States, because the United States have a bigger economy than in Mexico. Right, since again, United States, big economy and has more capital, right, more advanced technology. And that all those factors enhance productivity of labor. We also assume that migration has no cost, and migration occurs due to wage differences between United States and Mexico. Right. There are no law that will impede the flow of labor between the two countries. Doing so, we will find that labor will continue to migrate to the United States from Mexico until the wage rate between the countries are equal. So if the differential in the way that will put a pressure on migration to continue, immigration from Mexico to the United States to continue until we get that equality between the wage rate. So to illustrate this simple immigration model, let's look at these two graphs over here. The first one being United States and B is Mexico. Okay, so this is simple immigration model allow us to see the migration of low wage Mexican labor to United States. And doing so, that increase the domestic output and reduce the wage of the United States. Increase United States business income. The out migration of labor from Mexico will reduce the Mexican output and raise the wage rate in Mexico, right? And doing so, it will lower also the Mexican business income. If you look above, you will see that the gain in output in United States exceed the loss of output in Mexico. And this immigration increases economic efficiency and produce a net gain of the war output, because the gain in the United States by taking the inflow of immigrants from Mexico exceed the loss in output in Mexico that see the outflow of migrant to United States. And the process will continue until the wage rate between the two countries are equalized. So you see the demand here. So if this is the United States and you have the original wage rate being here, right? So as they get more immigrants from Mexico into the United States, that will increase eventually the quantity of labor in the United States. Right? By doing so, the quantity of labor move from C to F, and that put a downward pressure on the wage rate from WU to WE. So same way, if you look at Mexico, the graph over here, you see that the wage originally was over here, the rate was a WM for Mexico, and the output being C. But people living in Mexico, what that will do is that reduce the quantity of labor in Mexico. By reducing it, will put an upward pressure on the wage rate. Now the wage rate will from WM to WE, and the process will continue until we have this wage rate equal in the two countries. In the immigration model, the wage rate between the country will end up being equal, as we alluded earlier. With higher wages in the United States, workers from Mexico will continue to find beneficial to move into United States because of the higher wage. And as they continue to enter the United States, it will cause wages in the United States to fall. But employment and output will rise in the United States. On the other hand, as workers leave Mexico, wage rate will rise in Mexico. But again, employment and output will fall. Migration impact on wages, efficiency, and output. So, like we say, we alluded to in the previous slide, the overall benefit or the overall output will rise. As a labor move freely from one place to the other place, there is a more efficient allocation of labor with a better match between the skill of the labor and the productivity requirement. As a result of a more efficient allocation of labor, war output rises and the global economy will gain. For United States, as a result of migration into the country, the US gain because the output rises, but Mexico output at the same time will fall. So to that point, United States encourages a high amount of immigration because of the benefit, while some other country will try to prevent people from leaving because of that fear of decline or decreased output and business income. In general, country often try to prevent a highly educated individual from leaving the country. Okay, so there's a concept of brain drain, which is what when a higher percentage of educated people leave a country, that phenomenon is referred to as brain drain. This a review that we just went through, this analysis that we just went through is subject to a complication and a modification. Flow of labor is not easy as this model indicated because the cost of migration can be quite high and may stop other people to migrate to another country. When migration is temporary, or when the immigrant send remittance. Remittance are money that migrants send back to their home country. So when migration is temporary, or when the immigrant send remittances back home, then this will change the distribution of benefit between countries. And not everyone wages in the United States will fall because some immigrant workers are complement rather than a substitute. Okay. The unemployed workers moving to the United States may reflect a negative self-selection, in which movers are less capable and perhaps are less motivated than similarly educated people or who did not migrate. So this global perspective lists the remittances that are received by a variety of countries. And you can see that most of the remittance flow toward developing countries. And for some of these countries, the amount of remittance each year exceed the direct foreign investment, right? Direct foreign investment is the economic investment by foreign individual or firms in the country. So fiscal impact of immigration. The model suggests that immigration will continue or will contribute to higher GDP, but in the United States, many immigrants use the welfare system more than the native-born American. It is even argued that welfare system in the United States is one of the major attractions for immigrants. Despite the recent changes in the welfare system, immigrants still pose a cost to the government by enrolling their kid in school, using emergency healthcare, straining the criminal justice system, and research finding mixed about the overall effect of migration on US wages. But evidence suggests that immigration reduce the wages of native born workers who have a little education and less skill. It may also reduce the salary of some highly trained native born workers. The estimate on the effect of immigration on the average American wage range from minus 3% to plus 2%. So now let's shift to illegal immigration. These are some of the recent debate on illegal immigration. So the debate continues with passion running higher in both sides, the pro and the con. The people for illegal immigration and people who are the view that is against the view that is against illegal immigration. So, but the one thing to keep in mind is the two views discussed here on illegal immigration are often expressed in dealing with the subject of employment. Okay. Generally, illegal immigration causes some substitution of illegal worker for domestic worker, but the amount of displacement is less than the total employment of illegal workers. So if we look at this graph over here, illegal worker in a low wage labor market, it shifts the labor supply to the right, shift it to the right. And doing so, reduce, so if originally we have the equilibrium here and the quantity of labor being QD with the corresponding wage, WD, the illegal immigration, illegal worker will shift the labor supply S to the right, become ST. And doing so, you see the new equilibrium here. Supply shift to the right, put a downward pressure on the wage from WD to WT. That reduce the equilibrium wage market to WT. But it is somewhat misleading to state that illegal workers are performing jobs that Americans are not willing to do, or deporting those workers will open more jobs to American workers. So you hear that argument in the news or in the mainstream, but you have to have a critical mind when you hear something like that. So the debate again on illegal immigration, the lower prices that the business will gain by utilize illegal immigration, but that lower prices can be transferred to the consumer, right? The lower cost can be transferred to the consumer by charging them a lower prices, because the business using less expensive illegal worker. And that alone may help improve the standard of living of all Americans and their family, right? Because the production costs being less because of the advantage that business will take from inflow of workers, right? That will pass to the consumer through lower prices on the market, and that lower prices will increase people or the consumer purchasing power, and ultimately lift the increase, improve the standard of living of Americans and their family. While illegal immigrants may not pay income taxes, which is one of the arguments, they do pay sales and excise taxes, and indirectly also pay property taxes on the property that they rent, because they had to live somewhere, meaning that they rent. So they indirectly pay property taxes. Fiscal impact on the local and state government. The average net fiscal burden for each low-skilled immigrant household may be as high as 19,500 per households per year. The critics of illegal immigration also point to other concerns, such as increase in criminal activity and the unfairness to those immigrants who spend time and money to do illegally. Right. So again, the idea is the illegal immigration had that link or correlation with higher crime. Right. So those are the critics that pointed out that there's an increase in criminal activity. And also, it's not fair for those who wait to have the visa approved and spend a lot of money before they get into the country. So if everybody don't want to spend money, don't want to wait in the line, everybody had to be illegal, but that won't do any good. So it's a question of fairness that the critics point out here. So the last word of the chapter describe the Australian and Canadian system of immigration as a model for the United States to consider. So the system in those countries, the immigration system, give a priority to immigrants with a skill set that focus on the needed economic area instead of our system focus more on the family sponsor base. The system focus more on the skill set that is needed in different economic area. Family relationship are not the primary focus as what we have here. Even the critical word to argue that the family sponsor immigrant system lead the U.S. Legal immigration system to the fact that the immigrant, right, tend to be the immigrant that we receive based on family sponsor tend to be retired or elderly, and they are not in the labor force anymore. By the time they get here, they are not in the labor force anymore. So the economic aspect of it is not advantageous as if you compare it to the Australian and Canadian system when it's they target the skill needed in the country in different areas to favor the immigration into the country.